Some games are remembered, some games are replayed, and some games quietly rewrite everything that comes after them. Ocarina of Time is one of those games. Almost 30 years later, people still talk about it like it's the standard. Question is why? Not because it was the first 3D game, not because it was perfect, and not just because of nostalgia. It matters because a lot of ideas modern games use every day were shaped there. Combat, exploration, camera control, the feeling of moving through a world that actually makes sense. And once you notice how many games borrowed from it, you start seeing Ocarina of Time everywhere. In the late 1990s, 3D gaming was still figuring itself out. The future was obvious, the rules were not. Cameras could feel awkward, movement could feel awkward, and combat could feel awkward. Developers knew games were moving in true 3D, they just didn't know how to make 3D feel good yet. Then Nintendo released Ocarina of Time. And instead of just adding another 3D adventure into the pile, it helped define what 3D adventure should feel like. That's the difference. It didn't just arrive in a genre, it helped build the floor under it. Here's a simple question. Have you ever locked onto an enemy in a game? Of course you have. It feels normal now. Natural even. But before Ocarina of Time, that kind of combat clarity was far from standard. Nintendo introduced Z-targeting, one button, one focus point. Suddenly 3D combat became readable. You knew where you were. You knew who you were fighting. You knew what the camera was doing. That one idea spread far beyond Zelda. And the weird thing is, most players still use versions of it all the time without thinking about where it started. That's how you know something changed gaming, when it becomes invisible. A lot of games tell you where to go. Ocarina of Time made you want to find out. That's a huge difference. The game rewarded curiosity constantly. A strange wall, a rumor from a villager, a song, a cave, a hidden path just off the road. Everything felt like it belonged to something bigger, not because the world was huge, because it felt connected, and connected worlds do something powerful. They make players feel like discovery is their idea, and that's why people still remember places from this game, not just the objectives, the moments they found something on their own. Then the game pulls off one of the most memorable turns in gaming. It changes the world, not the hero. The world, suddenly the adventure gets older, heavier, sadder, and more serious. That's the moment Ocarina of Time stops feeling like a brilliant game and starts feeling like a statement. Because underneath the fantasy, there is something very human here. You grow up, the world changes, and responsibility doesn't wait for you to be ready. That feeling is part of why the game stuck. Not because it was fun, because it felt like an ending of childhood. Every major Zelda game after Ocarina had to live in its shadow somehow. Some followed it, some challenged it, some built entire new directions around rejecting it, but none of them erased it. Because once a game sets the template, the whole industry keeps having conversations with it. Even games outside Zelda, even actions game, modern adventure design. That's a real mark of influence. It doesn't stay in one franchise, it leaks into everything. And once that happens, the original becomes a part of the medium's DNA. So why does Ocarina of Time still matter? Because it solved problems gaming was still trying to understand. How should the 3D combat work? How should the exploration feel? How do you make a world that invites discovery instead of just pointing the player forward? Those answers didn't stay in 1988, they spread, and that's why Ocarina of Time never really left. Its influence became so common that people stopped noticing it. And maybe that's the biggest compliment a game can get. Not that it was loved once, but that people are still using its ideas today without realizing it. So when people call it one of the greatest games ever made, they are not just talking about the past. They are talking about the design language of everything that came after. So I want to know, when you think of the greatest Zelda game ever made, is it still Ocarina of Time, or did another one take its place?